Hello, fourth graders. This lesson is going to be on adding and subtracting decimals. So we're going to work on adding decimals first, and then later on in the video, we're going to be doing subtracting decimals. So we're going to start out with pretty low numbers, just so we can make sure that we are checking our work, taking our time, getting our work organized, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to start with adding 4.24 plus 2.62. When I add numbers with decimals, super important that you make sure everything is lined up with each other. Just like when we add numbers in the ones place, tens place, hundreds place, etc. When you're adding decimals, you need to make sure that everything is lined up. So I am making sure that the hundredths are lined up, the tenths are lined up, and the ones place is lined up. I'll make sure that your work stays organized and that you get an accurate answer. All right, just like normal, we start on the right-hand side. So instead of starting with the ones place, we have to start with the smallest place value, which in this case is the hundredths place. So when I add 4 plus 2, I get a 6 in the hundredths place. Then I can add 2 plus 6, which is 8. And I like to insert the decimal as I'm completing the problem. That way I don't leave it out when I get my answer. And then lastly, I'm going to add the ones place. So 4 plus 2 is 6. So again, same rules apply, starting in the lowest place value when you're adding and working your way to the left. So let's check. 4 plus 2 is 6. 2 plus 6 is 8. 4 plus 2 is 6. And I put my decimal here because as everything is lined up, this separates the ones place from the tenths and hundredths. Okay, let's get a little bit different here. Let's go with 14.66 plus 18.47. Okay, everything is lined up again. With the hundredths place, they're lined up, the tenths place, the ones place, and the tens place. Everything looks to be lined up, so I can add normally. Starting in the hundredths place, 6 plus 7 gives me 13. So the 3 stays in the hundredths place. But just like we would regroup when we have the ones place or the tens place, and we're adding more than 10, we just carry that 10 over to the next place value. So I had 6 plus 7 hundredths, which gave me 13 hundredths. So the 3 stays in the hundredths place and the 10 goes to the tenths place. Now I can add 1 plus 6, which is 7, plus 4 more, which is 11. Again, that's more than 10, so I'm going to keep the 1 in the tenths place and carry that 10 over to the ones place. Let's not forget the decimal. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 8 more is 13. And then 1 plus 1 is 2. So 14.66 plus 8.47 gives me 23.13. So adding decimals, pretty straightforward. Very similar to when we just add ones, tens, hundreds, and etc. We just have to make sure that we include the decimal in our answer to make sure that we get the most accurate representation of what we added. All right, so let's move on to subtracting with decimals. Again, I'm going to start with lower numbers just so we can have some practice with that. So let's do 5.95 minus 3.63. All right, starting in the hundredths place, I subtract 5 minus 3, which is 2. Then I move on to the tenths place. 9 minus 6 is 3. I'm going to add my decimal in my answer here so I don't forget it. And then lastly, in the ones place, 5 minus 3 is 2. So 5.95 minus 3.63 gives me 2.32. All right, let's do 7.62 minus 4.54. Again, making sure that all of our place values are lined up. My hundredths place is lined up, the tenths place, and the ones place. So starting in the hundredths place, 2 minus 4. I cannot complete that operation because 4 is bigger than 2. So just like we would when we are subtracting in the ones, tens, hundreds place, if we do not have enough to complete the operation, we need to go next door and borrow some more. So I'm going to go to the tenths place, borrow a tenth from this 6, so that brings it down to a 5, and I'm going to donate that tenth to the hundredths place, which turns that 2 into a 12. All right, now I can finish this operation. 12 minus 4 is 8. Moving on to the tenth place, 5 minus 5 is 0. Add my decimal. And then lastly, the ones place, 7 minus 4 is 3. So again, this could be tricky. Make sure that you're really looking at what the problem is asking you. Most common mistake is people will go 2 minus 4 is 2. But if you have a number that is larger, if you're trying to take away a number that's larger than what you started with, you cannot complete the operation. So just be careful of something like that. All right, so let's try one more. Right, 36.00 minus 14.84. Starting in the tenths place, or the hundredths place, I'm sorry. If we go back to when we do subtraction with numbers and not including decimals, if the number we are trying to take away is larger than what we started with, we cannot complete the operation. So we need to go next door and borrow some more. So if I cannot complete the operation in the hundredths place, I need to go to the tenths place. Unfortunately, I run into the same problem because there's nothing to borrow since this is a 0. So I have to keep going. I'm going to go to the next place value over, which is the ones place. So this 6 becomes a 5. And that means I can donate that whole, which gives me 10 tenths. So that 0 becomes a 10. Now I can borrow from the tenths place to donate to my hundredths place. Again, this is the common mistake that I see, is that you will leave the 10 and make this also a 10, but you just borrowed from the ones place to get that 10. So now we have to borrow from that tenths place to donate to the hundredths place. So if I take a tenth away, makes that a 9, and now I have 10 hundredths to deal with. Okay, now I can do 10 minus 4, which I know is 6, 9 minus 8, which is 1, 5 minus 4, which is 1, and 3 minus 1, which is 2. Again, checking our work, when I started in the hundredths place, I could not complete this operation, so I needed to borrow from the next place value over. That had nothing, so I knew I need to borrow from the ones place. If I took a 1 away from the ones place, made that a 5, I just donated 10 tenths. This 10 gave me the opportunity to then donate another tenth, or 10 hundredths, to the hundredths place. So again, please be careful with your borrowing, making sure that everything is kept within the place value until you need it, in case you do need it to complete the operation. All right, let's try one more subtraction and then we'll be done. Okay. Right, I have 40.09 minus 18.62. So I'm going to start in the hundredths place. 9 minus 2 is 7. Then I'm going to move on to the tenths place. 0 minus 6, I cannot complete that operation because I cannot take 6 away from nothing. So I need to go next door and borrow some more. If I go to the ones place, I run into the same problem. I don't have anything to borrow, so I need to go to the tens place. If I borrow a 10 from the 4, makes that a 3. And I donate 10 ones over here. Now I have enough ones to borrow and donate to my tenths place. So I need to take one of those tens. That makes that a 9. And I just donated 10 tenths over here. Now I can complete the operation. 10 minus 6, which is 4. 9 minus 8, which is 1. And 3 minus 1, which is 2. Again, it's super important that when you are adding or subtracting with decimals, everything stays in line and organized with the place values. Otherwise, it's easy to make a mistake. Look for your assignment on Canvas. It will have a couple questions that have to do with adding and subtracting decimals. And then the next video is going to focus on word problems. So it's going to be multi-step word problems involving decimals.